Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Under the Sun, the podcast. If you're a new listener, hi, I'm so happy that you're here. And for everyone who has stuck with me through uploading and missing a couple of weeks, thank you for coming back and welcome back to the podcast. Thank you for letting me into your ears. My name is Tony Iman. I am the host of this podcast. And we're just going to dive right in because it's been a minute and I thought the best way to my reintro myself was to look back on some of the goals that I had set at the beginning of 2025 and then look forward to 2026. I believe at the beginning of 2025, I had an episode where I touched on some of my goals for the past year and the ways in which I was working towards them. Some things have shifted for me in terms of how I goal set and my mindset going into 2026. I'm recording this on the 30th of December. I'm really cutting it close here with this episode, but it's going to drop in 2026. And I figured I'd have a better chance of actually uploading it when I intend to if I record a little bit ahead of time. So my past holiday season has been super chill. I've been able to see some of my friends and just really take the time to map out what I want my life to look like. That being said, I have to mention a couple of things before we look back on my goals. Prior to setting goals, there are some things that I always do, which is I'm consistently goal setting and I write time. Now, what does that mean, consistently goal setting? I always have goals that I write down or like things that I'm aspiring to, X, Y, and Z. And when it comes down to like this moment in the holiday period or just like Q4, right? The last quarter of the year, I never am completely just flailing when it comes to my goals because I have been consistently goal setting all year. Every time I get an idea in my head, every time I think of something that I may want to become a goal, I write it down. So I kind of do a big brain dump of all the things that I would like to do in the future, of all the things that I want to accomplish, how I want to accomplish them, experiences I want to have, the type of person I want to become, bits of my character that I want to improve on, habits that I would like to grow in. Whatever it is, at the moment it comes to me, I write it down. And I encourage everyone to do this. I'm a big fan of making lists and writing things down because it's very easy for us to forget things. And sometimes when you write things down and it's still on your mind, the fact that you've written it down and it's still coming to memory is a good indicator that you actually really want to do this thing. And even if it's not always on your mind, the fact that you have it written down is always a good way to make sure that you are keeping track of your mindset and all the things that you maybe one day have an idea from, and also to really validate these goals that you're kind of putting together in your head or these aspirations that you have. Are these meaningful? Is this doable? Does this make sense in the grand scheme of things? And then you can start to piece together what your life would really look like, assuming you're able to achieve all of these goals. Or perhaps it'll help you break it down into smaller chunks. Say you're someone who likes to dream very big. Now it's your chance to be like, okay, I have this really big goal. I've written it down. How can I build and stack habits in order to achieve this dream that you have? It might seem like a dream now, but that doesn't mean it has to stay a dream forever. It could very well become your reality. So over the past quarter of last year of 2025, I have written down a number of goals. It was like a big dump where I'm just like, you know, what are the things that I've been thinking about doing for the longest that I still haven't done? Or, oh, in this new year, I had some experiences that really propelled me to want to do more or to want to accomplish certain things in this area that I have already started making progress in. And I wrote it down. That was my first step. My second step is to go back to my goals that I had set previously. Now, if you guys remember, and if you haven't listened to that episode, feel free to take a listen. That structure might be helpful to you. But as a quick refresher, essentially what I did is a big dump of my goals in 2024 and at the beginning of 2025 as well. But what I did was to split all of my goals by quarterly system first. and also according to buckets in my life. Now, you can look at it three ways, or I guess 4 or 5 ways. The three-way method being, who do you want to be? What do I want to accomplish? When do I want to do it? And those are kind of like buckets that you can split your goals into, or kind of split the way that you think about your goals. You think of who you want to be, you think of how you can accomplish that, what are the things that you want to do, and when you want to do them in the most specific way possible. These are, I think, what people call SMART goals. So, SMART goal acronym stands for they're specific, they're measurable, it's achievable, it's relevant or realistic, and it's time bound. I find that this is one of the best frameworks to set clear goals, whether it is in any area of your life, be it business, you're managing a project, or personal development. I tend to run my life like a company or a small business, however you want to call it, and employ the tactics that I see people using in project management scenarios in my life because of the way my brain works and how I grasp information and what I know will keep me consistent. But something I really, really love about this framework is that it works for almost anyone. Like, whoever you are or whatever goal you're chasing, having this framework embedded into it is one of the easiest and most straightforward way to stay on track and to also have a clear view of what it is you're trying to accomplish. So that's like my second step. I make those time goals, and then I take it a step further with the timing, and I split my year into quarters. My quarter one looks like January to March. Quarter two is April to June. Quarter three, July to September. And quarter four, October to December. First time I ever really did this was 2025. My 2024 goals were not this quarterly specific. But I found that I really, really enjoyed using this framework for my personal life, especially mostly because there were certain things that I knew I really had to get done by a certain amount of time to be considered successful, or to consider it very well done. And for me, because some of the things that I wanted to do required financial planning and just like more time planning in terms of like, okay, at what point in my life would I actually be able to do this? Like, say you're going on vacation and you work, you need to plan your PTO. So having a quarterly system of this is around the time that I would like to actually accomplish this goals allows you to plan ahead and also factor in everything that you're trying to do within your existing life or the existing framework of your life, whether it's with your job, with your family, whatever it is you need to get your stuff in order. Financial planning, you can make sure that your spending is optimized for this goal and make sure that your saving is also optimized for this goal. Again, you get the point. It's really to propel you to the best version of what success might look like to you. And so I did that, but I also want to factor in flexibility because not everything goes according to plan. While I did not accomplish every single thing on my annual goal list, can actually say I accomplished 90% of the goals that I had set, which is huge for me. I'm very proud of myself. I don't have a lot of regrets this year, or any, to be honest. There were things where I felt like, oh, I could probably do better, or things that I'm like, okay, we're ever evolving. We made some progress here, but we didn't make the max or the most progress that I could have made in this area. But that's okay. And that leads me to my next point about flexibility. You only want to write down the things to a very large extent are within your control. So you want to put things that are really based on your treatment of your life and the way that you steward the things or steward your resources. You don't want to put down anything that is based on other people's reactions or opinions or decisions. That is something that I'm always very conscious of. And I allow myself to be flexible enough to be like, okay, say we don't accomplish this in the first quarter of the year. In the second quarter of the year, I'm constantly reevaluating my goals to make sure that, oh, is there still room for me to do this? I am tend to err on the more conservative side when it comes to goal setting, just to give me some wiggle room and also to give me a sense of accomplishment. So the same thing goes for just like goals that aren't really time sensitive, like, oh, I want to start journaling, or I want to like go to a movie by myself. That was actually one of my goals for 2025. I didn't know exactly when I would like to do that. I just knew I wanted to do it at some point. If I do it earlier, great. If I do it later, doesn't matter. The whole point for me is to be able to get it done at some point. So you should be able to have goals that you can move around and also give yourself that grace to have wiggle room when it comes to some goals. Now, obviously, there's some goals that it's like it has to happen at this time or it's all for naught. And then what that helps you do is prioritize. So we've gone through all the ways that I treat my goals and what that looks like. So I'm gonna do a little version of that TikTok trend where everybody talks about their accomplishments and puts like a candle on the cake and tell you guys some of the goals that I had set for myself over the course of the past year and what I've been able to accomplish. In quarter one, I wanted to get into running at least twice a week. I wanted to revive my podcast. I wanted to go to a concert. I wanted to go watch a movie at a cinema alone. I wanted to learn how to swim. I was able to do all of those things. I also wanted to have quiet times and Bible studies at least 3 times a week. I really put in that effort to reach that goal, and I was having spiritual enrichment through other areas. I just think that on an individual level I really could have done better. So that's one of those goals where I'm like, it wasn't a complete fail, but it also wasn't a complete success. And so now I know I need to push for that. Moving on to quarter two, I started to bake. I traveled to another state. I graduated with honors. I worked on a passion project. I have a podcast newsletter, Shash Substack. If you don't know about that, feel free to check the show notes. It's linked everywhere. It could be linked. Was I particularly consistent with that? No, but the goal was to start one and to work on it, which I did. So consider that accomplished. And podcast production. I worked on my podcast a lot in earlier in this year. Now, obviously, if you're a listener of the podcast, you know how I fell off. There was the latter half of the year. But the goal was, again, to make some progress in that area, which I did. Quarter three was to spend money on things related to health and wellness, which I did. I spent a lot of my money into running, getting running gear, getting running shoes, signing up for the races, et cetera, and following through on my investment, getting a training plan and paying for that subscription, which I did. And again, this really helped me understand where my money was going to and where I wanted my money to go to, and also helped me plan my spending accordingly. Save for Christmas gifts. That was also an accomplishment that I really liked, because then I was actually able to get Christmas gifts for some people that I had in mind without breaking my bank account and becoming broke come January, which I'm really, really proud of. I was in that really weird position last year at the beginning of 2025, having no money because I had just gone all out for the holidays. And I really didn't want to be in that position come 2026. And I'm very happy to report that we are not in that position anymore, because I made that a goal to adequately plan, which I love. Some things that I did not do was to crochet at least 5 projects and to lose a certain amount of weight. These 2 goals, I think it's really just down to prioritization. I just did not feel the need or the itch to really create stuff in that way. And so I did not even try, if I'm being honest. And when it comes to losing weight, I feel like my relationship with fitness has evolved to a point where I just wanted to be able to be consistent moving and being less tied to a scale or a number, that I let go of that goal completely. I'm pretty sure I lost a good amount of weight. It yo-yoed, but I'm at the point where I don't even check my weight anymore. So, couldn't even tell you honestly if I had actually accomplished that goal. Maybe I lost a bunch of weight and gained it all back. I couldn't tell you. All I know is I was able to be consistent with the chosen type of movement that I committed to. And that's enough for me. Moving on to quarter four, I wanted to try a new hairstyle, which I did. Something I did not do was to go to a Broadway show. I do want to do that. Be a better listener and speak less. I think I actually progressed in this area. I think I tend to talk a lot, and I feel like I could definitely grow in the listening aspect, or just being able to give people more grace and space to hear them out, and also just be quiet. Like, have moments where it's like you don't need to be carrying the conversation all the time. You don't need to insert your opinion. You can just kind of chill and let other people reveal to you what their thought processes are. And I found myself at different, you know, moments in the year and also within different contexts, admiring people who were intentionally listening to others and speaking less and just having a lot more quality thoughts because they had taken the time to listen. And so while I think that I have definitely improved, I still think there's a lot of more work to be done. I'm definitely not where I thought I would be or wanted to be by the end of the year. So that's something that I'm like not quite crossed off, but progress. And so again, looking back on this list, there are some things that I'm just not going to dive into because they're very, very personal and I don't feel the need to spill all. That's just kind of like the gist of what my goal list looked like and what I had done. There are just some other stuff that, again, I couldn't do mostly because I had lost my passion for them or it wasn't relevant anymore to my life. And number three, I just wasn't able to do it because it wasn't in my control. And so that's like the tip that I've gotten from reviewing my past goals is you are allowed to edit your goal list. But you need to edit your goal list with an honest view. So if you're editing your goal list because you're just like, "Oh my god, this is too hard," then you're doing yourself a disservice because you haven't really given yourself that challenge or the opportunity to rise to the challenge. Versus, hey, this isn't very realistic for me. This isn't very relevant to me. Then by all means, it's not fitting within the SMART goal framework, take it out. And I think that if I had done that earlier in the year, looking back at this list now, I probably would have less things not accomplished than I do now. But that's okay because growth is a very non-linear process, and the point is for you to be able to take things away that help you to be better in the future. And so that takes me to my 2026 goals. I'm still currently editing my goals. I honestly think that the sixes goal list will not be fully actualized and locked in, so to speak, till January, like till the first month of the year where I really start to see my life take shape and some other news and information that I'm waiting on comes to me before I would be able to say, okay, this is what I have. 2026 is looking quite busy and it's looking like a very selfish year in the sense where I feel like a lot of my goals are less focused on my community or my relationship with others and more towards personal development, like development of self. And I feel like a lot of these goals are going to require me to take some time away from my community, meaning I will probably spend less time hanging out with friends because I need that time to optimize for meeting other goals that I have set for myself. And so I don't know what this will really look like until I really start doing them and working towards them and seeing how these lifestyle changes will fit into my first of the year. So I'll probably report back on that. I have some spiritual goals as you know, as well as goals revolving around learning. So I recently just got back into reading more avidly. I think just being a student and starting a new job and just having all sorts of information overload took me away from reading for a bit. But over the last couple of months in the past year, I was able to really get back into my reading bag. But now I gave myself a whole new goal, which is delving into nonfiction. If anyone knows me, you would know that I am a fiction girly through and through. I don't particularly enjoy reading nonfiction or else other than it being for like an academic or just like work related purpose. But that's something that I want to change because I've come across certain articles and substacks and things of that sort that have actually allowed me to think more critically about the world on a everyday basis. And I really think that delving more into nonfiction, starting with the topics and the realms of the world that I am interested in, can be good for me in the long run. There is also a scripture that I've honestly taken to heart, and it's that one of Proverbs 16 verses 9. We can make our plans, but the Lord determines our steps. And I don't think that necessarily translate into saying we have no agency over our lives because that's not completely true. But I think that's something to really keep in mind, or at least something I try to keep in mind when I am goal setting, is the fact that I can write down all of these things, but at the end of the day, I'm at the mercy of God and I want His will to prevail over my life. And so I pray over my goals. I pray for the Holy Spirit's instruction and Holy Spirit's inspiration. And I also submit to that. So that's where the whole flexibility comes in. It's like you can want to do all of these things, but if God says otherwise, you need to be ready to obey and also to have your heart in a posture where you're willing to accept it. So I've made all these goals in an effort to be prudent with the resources that God has given me in order to take care of the temple that God has given me and to strive to be like Jesus. But at the end of the day, I also have to remember that God is the one who is ultimately going to give me the ability and bring all of these things into fruition if He so chooses. So I think when you put your goals up with a mirror of scripture, it actually allows you to figure out who are you prioritizing above all else and what does that mean in the long run. I'm still trying to figure it out, but these are the thoughts that I have. And so I am inviting you to also think through this if it's helpful, if it's relevant. But I'm just so excited to see how 2026 turns out. I want this to feel like we're on a phone call together. And even though you guys cannot talk back to me in real time, I do encourage you to continue the conversation and feel free to share your goals as well. You can find me on Instagram, on Substack, and on TikTok, wherever. My handle is at I am Tony Iman. If you're listening on Spotify, I'm pretty sure you can leave comments in some way. So feel free to utilize that too. I always love getting the notification of having a comment. And in the meantime, also please rate the show 5 stars. 4 is acceptable because we're not perfect, but anything less than that, and I'm really just going to assume that you're a hater. And we don't have that energy around here, do we? But all in all, thank you so much for listening to this episode and for giving me your time and attention. I really hope that this puts you on an amazing path to crush 2026, and cheers to many more episodes. Okay, I'm going to stop talking now. Bye.